Jake Morrison had been flying through space for 20 years, but he had never seen anything like this. His ship, the Aurora's Dream, dropped out of faster-than-light travel near New Haven Colony. What he saw made his stomach turn. The colony was burning. Black smoke rose from what used to be homes. Twisted metal lay everywhere. But Jake had seen destroyed colonies before during the border wars. This was different. This was wrong. "Sir, we're getting a distress signal from the planet," said his communications officer, Ben Hughes. Ben was young, maybe 25, and his voice shook as he spoke. "It's coming from the medical center," Jake nodded. "Take us down. Be ready for anything." The Aurora's Dream landed in what used to be the colony's main square. Jake could see the remains of shops, houses, and the small school where human children learned about their new world. Everything was destroyed. Dr. Lisa Carter met them at the medical center. She was covered in dirt and blood, but she was alive. Her eyes were red from crying. When she saw Jake, she almost collapsed. "Commander Morrison," she said. "Thank God you're here. We tried to call for help, but our main transmitter was hit in the first attack." Jake helped her sit down. "What happened here, Doctor?" "Who did this?" Lisa's hands shook as she pointed toward the destroyed school. "It was the Council fleet. 3 big ships. They said we were hiding illegal weapons. They gave us 10 minutes to surrender." 10 minutes? Jake felt angry. The Galactic Council always gave colonies at least 24 hours to respond to official demands. "That's not standard procedure. We tried to tell them we had children here," Lisa continued. 37 kids were in the morning class. The teachers tried to get them to the shelters, but there wasn't enough time. Jake's blood went cold. The first law of the galaxy was simple and clear. No one harmed human children. Ever. This law existed because the last alien species that killed human kids had been wiped out completely. The galaxy remembered that lesson. "Where are the children now?" Jake asked, though he was afraid of the answer. Lisa started crying again. "The school took a direct hit. We found some of them, but many are just gone." Ben Hughes came running from the communication station in their ship. His face was pale. "Sir, I intercepted the Council's official report about this attack. They're calling it acceptable collateral damage during a lawful enforcement action." Jake read the report on Ben's tablet. The words made him sick. Collateral damage. That's what they called 37 dead children. The Council commander, Admiral Zekthor, had written that the colonists were warned and chose not to surrender quickly enough. "This is wrong," Jake said quietly. "This breaks the first law." He walked through the destroyed colony with Lisa. She showed him the small playground behind the school. Swing sets were melted. A sandbox was now just a crater. Scattered around were small backpacks, toys, and books that belonged to the children. "Danny Chen was only 6, Lisa said, picking up a small toy spaceship. "He wanted to be a pilot like you someday." Maria Lopez was 8. She loved to draw pictures of Earth. Tommy Brooks was 4. He still sucked his thumb when he was scared. Jake listened to every name, every story. Each child had dreams, families, futures. Now they were gone because some alien admiral decided to make an example of a peaceful colony. "Doctor, I need to know exactly what happened," Jake said. "Every detail." Lisa took a deep breath. "They came out of nowhere. No warning, no negotiation. Admiral Zekthor broadcast to the whole colony. He said we had 5 minutes to produce illegal weapons or he would assume we were hiding them. When we said we didn't have any weapons, he said we were lying. Then what? He said the Council was tired of human colonies ignoring their authority. He wanted to show other colonies what happened to people who didn't cooperate immediately." Lisa's voice got angry. "He targeted the school first. He said it would encourage the adults to surrender faster." Jake felt something cold and hard settle in his chest. This wasn't about weapons or authority. This was about fear. The Council wanted to scare humans into complete obedience. They had chosen to do it by killing children. Ben Hughes came over with more bad news. "Sir, I've been monitoring Council communications. Other human colonies are reporting unusual Council fleet movements. It looks like they're planning more enforcement actions." Jake looked around the destroyed colony one more time. He saw human families burying their children. He saw parents crying over empty beds. He saw the future that Admiral Zekthor wanted for all human colonies. Complete fear and submission. He made a decision that would change everything. Jake activated his ship's most powerful transmitter. This message would reach every human ship, station, and colony in the galaxy. It would also reach Earth Fleet Command. He spoke 3 words that had not been used for over 300 years. The Children Protocol. Ben Hughes turned white. Sir, are you sure? Once we send that message, there's no going back. Jake looked at the destroyed playground one more time. They killed our children, Ben. They broke the first law. There has to be consequences. The message went out on emergency frequencies. Every human in the galaxy would receive it within hours. And when they did, they would remember why the first law existed in the first place. As the Aurora's Dream prepared to leave New Haven Colony, Jake made one more broadcast. This one went directly to Admiral Zekthor's flagship. Admiral, this is Commander Jake Morrison of the human vessel Aurora's Dream. I want you to know that we found your work here. 37 children. We have their names. We have their pictures. We have their stories. And now everyone will know what you did. Zekthor's reply came back quickly. Commander Morrison, those humans were in violation of Council law. The response was appropriate. Jake smiled, but it was not a happy smile. Admiral, you just made the biggest mistake in galactic history. You're about to learn why no one harms human children. Ever. The Aurora's Dream jumped to faster-than-light speed, carrying news of New Haven to the rest of humanity. Behind them, the colony's survivors continued burying their dead and remembering their children. The galaxy was about to remember too. Admiral Susan Blake was having coffee in her office on Luna Base when the message came through. 3 words that she had hoped never to hear. 3 words that meant everything was about to change. The Children Protocol. Susan dropped her coffee cup. It shattered on the floor, but she didn't notice. She had been the head of Earth's deep space defense for 15 years. She knew exactly what those words meant. She also knew what came next. Her assistant, Lieutenant Carol White, ran into the office. Admiral, we just received a priority message from Commander Morrison. It's tagged with the Children Protocol. I know, Susan said quietly. Send the activation codes to all human vessels immediately. Every ship, every station, every colony. Use the emergency frequencies. Carol's eyes went wide. All of them, ma'am? Even the Ghost Fleet? Especially the Ghost Fleet. Susan walked to her window and looked out at Earth. Soon, the peaceful blue planet would be at the center of the largest military operation in human history. And Carol, send a message to General Pete Williams on Mars. Tell him it's time. The Children Protocol had been created 300 years ago, after the first time aliens killed human children. Back then, humanity had been weak and new to space. They couldn't do much except cry and bury their dead. But they promised themselves it would never happen again. For 3 centuries, humans had prepared for this day. They had built secret shipyards in hidden asteroids. They had trained soldiers who didn't appear on any official military list. They had created weapons that other species didn't know existed. Captain Ryan Cross received the message while his heavy cruiser, New York's Fury, was patrolling near the Centauri system. Ryan had been in space for 12 years, but he had never seen his crew move so fast. Sir, all weapon systems are online, his tactical officer reported. Shall I plot a course for Council space? Yes, Ryan said. Maximum speed, and send a message to any human ships in our area. Tell them to form up with us. Within 6 hours, Ryan's single cruiser had become a fleet of 23 ships. Cargo vessels, research ships, even civilian transports had answered the call. All of them were now armed and heading toward Council territory. Dr. Amy Foster was studying alien fish on the peaceful research station Galileo when her computer started screaming. Emergency messages flooded her screen. The Children Protocol. New Haven Colony. 37 dead children. Amy had spent 20 years learning about alien species. She knew their weaknesses, their fears, their psychology. All of that research had been classified as too dangerous for alien consumption. The Council had specifically asked that humans not share certain information about warfare and military tactics now. Amy uploaded everything to the Galactic Information Network. Every study about human psychology and combat. Every analysis of human pack behavior. Every classified report about what humans did to their enemies. The Council's intelligence network suddenly received more information about human military capabilities than they had gathered in 300 years. And all of it was terrifying. On Mars, General Pete Williams walked through the underground command center that officially didn't exist. For 2 centuries, humans had been building ships in secret. The Council always wondered why human military production numbers didn't match their observed fleet size. They were about to find out. "General, we have 600 vessels ready for immediate deployment," his aide reported. "Another 200 will be ready within 12 hours. Pete nodded. 800 ships that the Council didn't know existed. Ships built specifically for one purpose: to protect human children no matter the cost. "Deploy them all," Pete said. "Use Formation 7. I want every major Council world to wake up tomorrow with human ships on their doorstep." Meanwhile, across the galaxy, other humans were taking action. Steve Parker was an engineer working on the Council's capital world. For 10 years, he had been installing and maintaining critical systems: traffic control, power distribution, water purification, all the things that kept a modern city running. Steve activated hidden programs that he had hoped never to use. Traffic lights started failing in patterns. Power grids began routing energy inefficiently. Water treatment plants required constant manual oversight to prevent shutdowns. Nothing failed completely. No one got hurt. But the capital city of the Galactic Council slowly started falling apart in ways that seemed like normal wear and tear. The patterns weren't random, though. When Council intelligence finally figured out what was happening, they realized the system failures were spelling out the names of the New Haven children in binary code. Similar things were happening on dozens of Council worlds. Human contractors were quietly walking away from essential systems. Human researchers were abandoning important projects. Human diplomats were returning to their ships without explanation. Chancellor Vextari, the insectoid leader of the Galactic Council, initially dismissed the human response as emotional posturing. His species had evolved beyond what they considered primitive emotional reactions. They made decisions based on logic and efficiency, but his intelligence advisors brought him reports that made his logical mind very worried. Human fleet movements were too coordinated, too fast, too organized. This wasn't an emotional response. This was a military operation that had been planned for centuries. "How many human ships are we tracking?" Vextahri asked his intelligence chief. "We've identified over 400 vessels in the past 12 hours, came the reply. "But sir, we think there are more, many more. Our monitoring stations are detecting massive faster-than-light signatures, but we can't identify the ships creating them." The most disturbing report came from the Outer Rim. 14 human vessels of unknown design had appeared near the Council's primary military shipyard. They weren't attacking. They weren't communicating. They were just waiting. The ships didn't match any human design in the Council's databases. They were bigger than anything humans had built before, and sensors couldn't get clear readings on their weapons systems. "What do they want?" Vextari asked. His military advisor, a tall crystalline being named Morduke, delivered the chilling answer. "We don't think they want anything, Chancellor. We think they're just showing us that they're there, that they've always been there, waiting." As reports continued to flood in, the Council began to understand the true scope of their mistake. Humanity hadn't just gotten angry about New Haven Colony. They had activated a military machine that had been building in secret for 300 years. Every trade agreement had been gathering intelligence. Every diplomatic mission had been positioning assets. Every human colony had been a potential military base. The peaceful, emotional humans that the Council thought they understood had been playing a game that lasted centuries. And now the game was over. Vextari called an emergency session of the Galactic Council. Representatives from 47 species would meet to discuss what to do about the human response. But as he looked at the reports coming in from across the galaxy, he began to suspect it was already too late. Humanity was moving with a purpose that terrified him. They weren't just angry, they were methodical. They weren't just emotional, they were prepared. The first law of the galaxy existed for a reason, and Admiral Zekthor had just reminded everyone what that reason was. Admiral Krenthalax had been fighting in space for 40 years. He commanded the 3rd Enforcement Wing of the Galactic Council, 12 powerful warships that had kept peace in the outer systems for decades. He had never lost a battle. When he received orders to investigate the human fleet movements, he wasn't worried. Humans were emotional and unpredictable, but they weren't stupid. They wouldn't attack Council ships without good reason. He would talk to them, find out what they wanted, and solve this problem with diplomacy. His fleet dropped out of faster-than-light travel in neutral space, where long-range sensors had detected a group of human vessels. What he found surprised him. 7 human ships hung in space in perfect formation. They weren't running. They weren't hiding. They were waiting. Krenthalax had expected to find cargo ships or research vessels, the kind of ships that usually carried human civilians. Instead, he saw warships, real warships with heavy armor and weapons that his sensors couldn't fully identify. "This is Admiral Krenthalax of the Galactic Council 3rd Enforcement Wing," he broadcast to the human fleet. "Identify yourselves and state your purpose in this system." The lead human ship responded immediately. "This is Captain Greg Allen of the Boston's Pride. We're here because you killed our children." Krenthalax felt a chill run through his body. He had read the reports about New Haven Colony. He knew about the 37 dead children. He also knew that Admiral Zekthor had been following standard enforcement procedures. "Captain Allen, the New Haven incident was a lawful council action. The colonists were warned and chose not to comply with official demands. The children were 6 years old," Captain Allen replied. "They couldn't comply with anything. They were just children." Something in the human captain's voice made Krenthalax nervous. It wasn't anger. It wasn't emotion. It was cold, hard certainty, the kind of voice soldiers used when they had already made a decision and nothing would change their minds. "Captain, I understand your concern, but—" "No," Allen interrupted. "You don't understand. You can't understand, but you're going to learn." What happened next changed everything Krenthalax thought he knew about human warfare. The human ships moved like they were dancing. Perfect coordination, impossible precision. Krenthalax had seen many species fight, but he had never seen anything like this. The humans moved as one mind controlling 7 bodies. Their weapons were unlike anything in the Council's databases. Instead of the crude energy beams that humans usually used, these ships fired focused bursts that seemed to know exactly where to hit. Krenthalax's flagship lost its main engines in the first 30 seconds. His weapon systems went offline in the next minute. But the humans weren't trying to kill them. Every shot was precise, calculated to disable rather than destroy. When the battle ended 3 minutes later, all 12 Council ships were drifting helplessly in space. But their crews were alive. Captain Allen's final message came through clearly. "Admiral Krenthalax, your ships will be repaired and allowed to leave. But first, you're going to carry a message back to your Chancellor. Tell him that humanity remembers every child's name. Tell him we're coming for explanations." As Krenthalax watched the human ships disappear into faster-than-light travel, he realized something terrifying. The humans hadn't been fighting to win. They had been fighting to send a message. And the message was clear. This was just the beginning. Meanwhile, on the Council's capital world of Nexus Prime, Dr. Steve Parker was having a very productive day. For 10 years, he had maintained the city's critical infrastructure systems. Traffic control, power distribution, water purification. All the boring but essential systems that kept 8 million beings alive and comfortable. Today, those systems were having problems. The traffic control network kept experiencing random failures. Nothing dangerous, just inconvenient delays that made commuting frustrating. The power grid was routing energy in inefficient patterns, causing brownouts in non-essential areas. Water pressure dropped just enough to be annoying. To most observers, it looked like normal wear and tear on aging systems. But Council intelligence operatives noticed something strange. The failures weren't random. They followed patterns. When they finally decoded the patterns, they found something that made their blood run cold. The system failures were spelling out names in binary code. Danny Chen, age 6, Maria Lopez, age 8, Tommy Brooks, age 4, all 37 names from New Haven Colony. Steve Parker had turned the capital city of the Galactic Council into a memorial for dead human children. Similar things were happening across Council space. Human engineers were quietly walking away from essential projects. Human researchers were abandoning their work and returning to human space. Human diplomats were ending negotiations and departing without explanation. The psychological impact was devastating. The Council had never realized how much they depended on human expertise. Humans fixed things, built things, solved problems that other species couldn't handle. Now they were gone, and critical systems across the galaxy were slowly failing. But the most chilling reports came from the Outer Rim systems. Human fleets were appearing near major Council worlds, not attacking, not threatening, just arriving and taking up positions in space. The ships were massive, unlike anything in human military databases. They didn't respond to hails. They didn't make demands. They just sat there watching. Chancellor Vextari received hourly updates on the situation, and each report was worse than the last. 14 human fleets had taken positions around important council worlds. The ships matched no known human designs, which meant humans had been building secret military vessels for decades. How is this possible? Vextari asked his intelligence chief, Morduk. Our monitoring stations track all human military production. Where did these ships come from? Morduk's crystalline features flickered with uncertainty. Chancellor, we've been reviewing our intelligence files. It appears that human military production numbers have never matched their observed fleet size. We assumed it was accounting errors or misreported data. And now? Now we realize they've been hiding ships for centuries. Possibly since they joined the galactic community. The implications were staggering. For 300 years, humans had been playing a careful game. They presented themselves as junior partners in galactic civilization, eager to learn and cooperate. But behind the scenes, they had been preparing for war. Every trade agreement had been an intelligence-gathering operation. Every technological exchange had been a chance to learn Council weaknesses. Every diplomatic mission had been positioning assets for future conflict. Dr. Neil Johnson, speaking from his research vessel Carl Sagan, sent a message directly to the Council that explained everything they needed to know about human nature. Honored Council members, Neil's message began, you seem confused about our response to the New Haven incident. Let me explain something about human psychology that we've been trying to teach you for 3 centuries. We are an emotional species. You've always seen this as a weakness. You're wrong. When you threaten our families, every human becomes a soldier. When you hurt our children, every human vessel becomes a weapon. When you break our trust, every human colony becomes a fortress. For 300 years, we've been preparing for the possibility that you might betray us. Every human in space carries genetic markers that trigger automatic responses if our children are killed by alien action. The Children Protocol isn't just a military plan, it's biological programming. You killed 37 of our children. Now 2 billion humans across the galaxy are responding the same way a mother bear responds when her cubs are threatened. We can't help it. We can't stop it. It's what we are. The message ended with a simple question that terrified the Council more than any threat could have. What are you going to do about it? As emergency sessions began across Council space, one fact became clear to everyone involved. Humanity had just demonstrated that they had been holding back for centuries. The peaceful, cooperative humans that the galaxy thought they knew had been hiding their true capabilities. And now those capabilities were aimed directly at the Galactic Council. The emergency session of the Galactic Council had been called for the first time in over 50 years. Representatives from 47 species gathered in the Great Chamber on Nexus Prime, their voices creating a chaos of different languages and concerns. Chancellor Vextari looked around the chamber at the assembled delegates. Tall crystalline beings from the inner world sat next to small furry creatures from the rim colonies. Ancient gas cloud entities floated near young silicon-based life forms. All of them were afraid. The human ambassador, Kate Miller, entered the chamber at exactly the appointed time. She had served the Council faithfully for 15 years, known for her calm diplomacy and reasonable approach to every crisis. She had negotiated trade agreements, settled border disputes, and helped write 3 major treaties. The woman who walked into the chamber was someone completely different. Kate wore a simple black dress instead of her usual diplomatic robes. She carried no briefing materials, no tablets, no aids. Her face showed no emotion at all. When she spoke, her voice was quiet and controlled. Honored Chancellor, she began, looking directly at Vextari, my species has a saying, hell hath no fury like a mother's wrath. You have awakened something that has slept for 300 years. She activated a small holographic projector, and the chamber filled with images from New Haven Colony, not the destroyed buildings or melted playground equipment, but something much more powerful. 37 small headstones, each one bearing a child's name, age, and picture. Danny Chen, age 6. He wanted to be a starship pilot someday. The hologram showed a small boy with a big smile, holding a toy spaceship. Maria Lopez, age 8. She drew pictures of Earth and sent them to her grandmother. A girl with pigtails covered in paint from her art class. Kate read every name, every age, every dream. The chamber fell completely silent as she spoke. Some delegates had never seen human children before. Others had children of their own. All of them understood what they were seeing. Tommy Brooks, age 4. He still sucked his thumb when he was scared. The image showed a tiny boy hiding behind his mother's legs, looking up at the camera with wide, innocent eyes. When Kate finished reading all 37 names, she looked around the chamber. Many delegates were visibly upset. A few were crying, which was unusual for species that rarely showed emotion. Your enforcement fleet had 17 different options for dealing with suspected illegal technology, Kate continued. Negotiation, inspection, graduated warnings, economic pressure, supervised surrender, protective custody. Your Admiral Zekthor chose the one option that guaranteed maximum casualties. The hologram changed to show tactical analysis of the New Haven attack. Council military experts had prepared the data, and it was damning. Zekthor had bypassed every standard protocol for dealing with civilian populations. He chose to make an example. He chose to frighten other human colonies into instant obedience. He chose to target the school first because he thought it would make the adults surrender faster. Kate's voice remained calm, but something cold and hard entered her tone. He chose wrong. The display shifted to show real-time positions of human fleets throughout Council space. Red indicators marked dozens of locations around every major Council world. The pattern was unmistakable. Humanity had surrounded the entire Galactic Council within 72 hours. Delegate Morduk, the Council's intelligence chief, stood up to present their analysis. His crystalline body flickered with nervous energy as he spoke. The humans have been preparing for this scenario for centuries. Every trade agreement, every technological exchange, every diplomatic mission has been gathering intelligence and positioning assets. The evidence was overwhelming. Humans had entered galactic civilization as junior partners, eager students learning from advanced species, but they had also been preparing for the possibility that the galaxy might betray them. Every human child carried genetic markers that would trigger an automatic, species-wide response if they were killed by alien action. We estimate that humanity has been conducting a 300-year intelligence operation, Morduk continued. They know the location of every critical facility, every military base, every government center in Council space. They have detailed files on the psychology, weaknesses, and military capabilities of every Council species. Dr. Neil Johnson appeared via quantum communication link from his research vessel. His normally friendly face was serious as he addressed the chamber. Honored delegates, you seem surprised by our response. Let me explain something about human nature that we've been trying to teach you for 3 centuries. We are pack animals. When you threaten one of us, you threaten all of us. When you hurt our children, every human becomes a soldier. The chamber erupted in nervous chatter as delegates discussed this revelation among themselves. Many species were individualistic and couldn't understand the concept of automatic group response to threats. Neil continued. Every human in space carries biological programming that responds to threats against our young. We can't control it. We can't turn it off. When the Children Protocol is activated, 2 billion humans across the galaxy respond with the same instinct that drives a mother bear to protect her cubs. Chancellor Vextari finally found his voice. The insectoid leader's mandibles clicked nervously as he spoke. Ambassador Miller, what does humanity want? How do we resolve this situation? Kate's answer was simple and terrifying in its certainty. Justice. And what kind of justice? Vextari asked. Admiral Zekthor will stand trial for crimes against sapient life. He will be judged by a mixed tribunal of human and council representatives. If found guilty, he will face appropriate punishment. Delegate Harmoth, a large reptilian being from the military council, objected immediately. Ambassador, Admiral Zekthor was following standard enforcement protocols. He cannot be tried for following orders. Kate turned to look at Harmoth directly. Delegate, your standard protocols just killed 37 children. If that's acceptable to you, then perhaps we need to discuss more than just one admiral's actions. The threat was clear. Humanity wasn't just angry about New Haven Colony. They were questioning the entire council system that had allowed such an attack to happen. You have 48 hours to decide, Kate announced. Either Admiral Zekthor stands trial for his crimes, or humanity will assume that the council endorses the murder of children. We will respond accordingly. As she prepared to leave, Vextari asked the question that had been haunting him since the crisis began. Ambassador, what will humanity do if we refuse? Kate paused at the chamber door. When she turned back, her expression showed the first emotion she had displayed during the entire session. It was sadness. Chancellor, you still don't understand. This isn't a negotiation. This isn't diplomacy. 37 human children are dead because your admiral decided to make an example of them. The time for talking is over. She gestured toward the tactical display still showing human fleet positions. Every red dot on that map represents humans who are ready to die to protect children they've never met. They're not following orders. They're not being paid. They're there because their biology demands it. If you refuse to give us justice through your legal system, we'll create justice through our own methods. The choice is yours, but either way there will be consequences for what happened at New Haven Colony. As Kate left the chamber, the delegates sat in stunned silence. They had just learned that humanity had been playing a game for 3 centuries that none of them had even known existed, and now the game was over. The council had 48 hours to decide whether they wanted justice or war. Looking at the tactical display showing human fleets positioned around every major council world, most delegates realized the decision had already been made for them. The trial of Admiral Zekthor began 3 days after the council voted to accept humanity's demand for justice. It was the first time in galactic history that a council military officer had been put on trial for following orders. But the alternative was war with a species that had just demonstrated they had been preparing for conflict for 3 centuries. Judge Rick Davis presided over the mixed tribunal in the council's highest court. Rick had studied galactic law for 30 years and was considered one of the finest legal minds in human space. He sat between Chancellor Vextari and Supreme Justice Culverin, representing both human and council legal traditions. Admiral Zekthor entered the courtroom in full military dress, his reptilian features showing no emotion. He had commanded council fleets for 20 years and considered himself a loyal soldier, following lawful orders. He couldn't understand why he was being treated like a criminal. The evidence presented during the trial shocked everyone in attendance. Council military experts testified that Zekthor had 17 different options for dealing with the New Haven situation. Standard protocol required at least 24 hours for civilian compliance with official demands. Zekthor had given them 10 minutes. Dr. Lisa Carter testified via quantum link from New Haven Colony. She described the final moments before the attack, when teachers tried desperately to get children to safety. Her voice broke as she explained how 4-year-old Tommy Brooks had asked his teacher if the big spaceships were there to take them on a field trip. The children weren't afraid at first, Lisa said, tears streaming down her face. They thought the council ships were there to help them. Even when the bombs started falling, some of them were still waving at the ships. The most damning testimony came from Zekthor's own officers. Commander Yultek, his tactical officer, revealed that the admiral had specifically ordered the school to be targeted first. He said it would encourage faster surrender from the adult population, Yultek testified. When I suggested we target empty buildings instead, he said that wouldn't send a strong enough message. Throughout the trial, human fleets maintained their positions around major council worlds. Captain Carol White of the siege fleet around Nexus Prime demonstrated the restraint that terrified the council more than any weapon could. Her ships maintained perfect formation and discipline while keeping their weapons trained on government buildings. Every morning, Captain White sent a polite message to Council Traffic Control requesting permission to maintain orbit. Every evening she thanked them for their cooperation. The courtesy was impeccable, the threat unmistakable. On the second day of the trial, Zekthor finally took the stand in his own defense. His testimony revealed the thinking that had led to the New Haven massacre. The human colonies have been growing increasingly independent, he testified. They ignore council regulations, delay responses to official communications, and show insufficient respect for lawful authority. New Haven Colony was an example of this pattern. Judge Davis asked the crucial question, "Admiral, did you consider the presence of children when planning your attack?" "Children grow up to become adults," Zekthor replied coldly. "If we allow human children to live in colonies that defy council authority, we are teaching them that defiance is acceptable. Sometimes harsh lessons are necessary for the greater good." The courtroom fell silent. Even council delegates looked horrified at Zekthor's casual dismissal of child mortality as a teaching tool. Rick Davis's final question revealed the heart of the matter. "Admiral, Were you aware of the first law of the galaxy when you planned your attack? The first law is an emotional human concept, Zekthor answered. It has no basis in practical military doctrine. If a species chooses to shield their illegal activities behind their young, those young become legitimate targets. The trial ended on the third day with closing arguments from both sides. The council's prosecutor argued that Zekthor had violated established protocols and caused unnecessary civilian casualties. The defense claimed he was following the logical course of action for dealing with defiant colonists. Kate Miller delivered humanity's closing statement with the same quiet intensity she had shown throughout the crisis. This trial isn't really about Admiral Zekthor, she said. It's about whether the galaxy will tolerate the deliberate murder of children as a tool of political control. The Admiral made his choice. Now you must make yours. The verdict came 6 hours later. Guilty of crimes against sapient life. Guilty of violating established military protocols. Guilty of unnecessary destruction of civilian targets. The sentence was exile to a barren world, exactly what humanity had suggested. They wanted justice, not revenge. But the real change came in the aftermath of the trial. The new first law of the galaxy was written in simple, clear language that no species could misinterpret. The deliberate targeting of any sapient species young will be considered an act of war against all galactic civilization. The response will be immediate, total, and without mercy. New enforcement protocols were established with human oversight. Every Council fleet commander now trained with human military advisors who taught them concepts like proportional response and civilian protection. The days of using overwhelming force against defenseless populations were over. Every major Council world accepted a small human monitoring station. Not as occupation, but as insurance. The stations were staffed by human families, a quiet reminder that humanity was watching and that they had invested their own children in galactic peace. The Ghost Fleet emerged from the shadows and took its place as the galaxy's unofficial guardians. When pirates threatened shipping lanes, when aggressive species considered expansion, when anyone anywhere thought about harming children, humanity's hidden ships appeared as silent reminders of what happened to those who broke the first law. General Pete Williams addressed the galaxy from his headquarters on Mars. For 300 years, we've been building these ships and training these crews hoping we'd never need them. We're not conquerors. We're not empire builders. We're parents and we'll do whatever it takes to protect all children, not just our own. Chancellor Vextari, humbled by everything he had learned about human nature, made the closing statement at the new treaty signing ceremony. We believed humans were weak because they valued emotion over logic, he said. We learned that love for their young makes them the strongest force in the galaxy. The first law exists not to protect humans, but to protect the rest of us from what humans become when their children are threatened. Ambassador Kate Miller signed the treaty with a simple addition. To the 37 children of New Haven, the galaxy remembers your names, and you will never be forgotten. The memorial on New Haven Colony was rebuilt larger and more beautiful than before, but now it included representatives from every Council species, each leaving flowers or gifts according to their customs. The inscription read, "Here lies the mistake that taught the galaxy fear. Here begins the peace that ensures no child shall suffer." Admiral Zekthor was transported to his exile world by a human ship. As they departed, Captain Greg Allen sent him a final message. "Admiral, you wanted to teach the galaxy a lesson about power. You succeeded. The lesson was that no power in the universe is stronger than the love parents have for their children. And in the deep spaces between stars, humanity's Ghost Fleet continued its eternal patrol. They carried a simple message broadcast on all frequencies. We are watching. We remember. We protect." The galaxy learned to sleep safer, knowing that somewhere in the darkness humanity stood guard over all children. The first law was more than words now. It was a promise backed by the most powerful force in the universe. Parents who would do anything to keep their children safe. Peace had come to the galaxy, built on the graves of 37 children, whose names would never be forgotten.